Hi, we're going to talk about advanced features in this unit. There are three major learning goals. First, understand and use OpenHub. 2, to understand and use Analysis Process Designer. And 3, to describe the need for remodeling. Now, these three advanced features are covered in Chapter 15 of the book. This is actually a pretty short chapter because it talks about these three features only briefly, and it doesn't have any hands-on exercises that you can do in the chapter. Okay, so for the first advanced feature, OpenHub, I'll try to find an assignment that you can do later on. And for the second one, Analysis Process Designer, which is used to support data mining operations. So I have a separate presentation on data mining that you can review, and you also have a data mining exercise or assignment. Okay, and the third feature is remodeling. We just read about it and understand the need for that according to the book. Okay. So the first advanced feature is OpenHub. So what is OpenHub? As you can see on the slide, basically, in most cases, when we think about a data warehouse, we think about it as a data repository, right? We get data from all kinds of sources into the data warehouse so that it can be used to provide analysis and reporting to our business users. But sometimes we may want to get data out of a data warehouse or BW. Okay, so when there's a need to get data out, we will then use the feature called OpenHub. And through the OpenHub, data can then be exported, if you will, to different targets. Okay, including flat files, including databases, SAP systems, or non-SAP systems. The second advanced feature is Analysis Process Designer, and as explained here, which basically is a graphical tool for constructing a decision support model. Okay, and in this model, we have basically three components: source, transformation, and target. Okay, and they basically follow the input, processing, output model that can be used to describe computer operations or software applications and so on. Okay, so in other words, you take some kind of input and then you process the input, you produce the output. So input in this case is the source, and processing is related to a transformation. So any transformation that we do or that we perform on the data is some kind of processing, and then output will be the target that we define. So on the next slide, we see some examples of sources, transformation, and target. Okay, for instance, as identified here, there is a source called customer master data. Okay, so that's the source of this decision support model. Okay, but we also have a source at the bottom that is shown as an InfoCube cells in 2002 and 2003. Okay, and the InfoCube is then going through some kind of transformation. Okay, because we don't want the entire cube. We only want a part of it, which is an aggregation of the InfoCube. And then after that step, we have another transformation, okay, or processing, if you will, which basically is to join the master data with the sales data. Okay, so that's some kind of transformation or processing, which leads to another transformation step, that is to filter out the data for net sales equal D. Okay, so we have a filter to further process the data, which then is written to a data target. Okay, a data target in this example, another master data table. Okay, so this is an example of APD that we can build and then to manipulate data and then put the output data into some kind of a data target. And as I mentioned earlier, that you'll be using APD to describe a data mining model in your assignment. Okay, finally, remodeling is another advanced feature in BW, which, as shown here, allows us to redesign an info queue without reloading the data. Okay. Now, why do we need to redesign an info queue? Because a lot of times, business conditions change. So after an info queue is built and loaded with data, we may need to modify the structure of the info cube. Okay, and remember that info cube is made of two objects: key figures and characteristics. Okay, and both objects may need to be modified. Okay, so we may need to change certain characteristics, for instance, or we may need to add new characteristics, or we may need to remove certain characteristics from the info cube. Okay, and same thing with key figures. So when that happens, when we need to, redesign the info cube, the good news is that we don't have to abandon the old info cube. Okay, so just like when you remodel your house, you don't have to throw everything away. Basically, we can just do the redesign, and then just if we are adding a new characteristic, for instance, we can go ahead and do so without affecting existing data. Okay, but without the remodeling feature, then we may have to redesign the queue and then remove the data and then reload everything, including the old data as well as the new data. Okay, so that can take a lot of time if remodeling feature was not available. Okay, but again, the good news is that now we don't have to do that. Okay, we can just do whatever we need to do without worrying about the existing data.